everybody out there in YouTube. We are the Middle-Aged Guys. We are going to continue through our episodic reviews of Young Justice all the way through Season 1 and, continuing on until we finally see Young Justice Outsiders, hopefully coming sometime next year. Let's go ahead and get the introductions out of the way. I'm the Reverend.
The theme here.
I'm Grey Mouse 1.
This particular video, we are going to be covering Season 1, Episode 16 of Young Justice. It's an episode entitled Failsafe that was originally aired out in November 4th, 2011. Like I said before, episode's near 6 years old, so there's not going to be any sort of spoiler warnings, because within this particular review, after I do a short synopsis, we're going to talk about three particular things. Our particular talking points are going to be, we're going to cover what we liked about the episode, what we didn't like about the episode, or if there was something that we wanted to change, what we might change. And then thirdly, if there's something that we noticed during watching the episode, because we've seen all the episodes like 2, 3, 5, 10, 50 times by now, that we know serves as a setup or a reference to something that will happen in the future of the series, that's the sort of thing we'll talk about also. All right? Let me go ahead and get the synopsis out of the way. This particular episode, okay, the way that the episode starts out, it shows the Justice League, the two Green Lanterns, facing off with what looks like a huge extraterrestrial entity outside of the atmosphere of Earth. And after warning them and asking them to go ahead and not to make any sort of, aggressive moves and to stand down and start communicating, a huge beam shoots out from the ship and disintegrates the two Green Lanterns, John Stewart and Hal Jordan. Right afterwards, Martian Manhunter, Superman, Captain Marvel, and Captain Atom leave the belly of what looks like Batman's, space variation of the Batwing to go ahead and face off with aliens, and they too soon get disintegrated. Batman being left out alone, not having much to go ahead and defend himself, he gets disintegrated also. Zoom right back to the cave, and we see that Red Tornado is there with the team. He's talking to Zatara of the Justice League, and there's obviously the situation is really dire. He tells the team, look, I must join the Justice League to go ahead and protect the Earth, but if we fall, you are all that's left to go ahead and protect the Earth. Long story short, we see in short order Flash, Zatara, Martian Manhunter, Hawkman, Hawkwoman, Black Canary, Green Arrow, Wonder Woman, and Red Tornado all summarily and in quick fashion get taken out by these aliens, which leaves the young heroes basically alone to act as the Earth's last hope. While going ahead and going through their particular plan to figure out what's going on, they go out of their way and they see, oh, hey, look, one of the aliens is, stranded out someplace in the North Pole. They go over there to find out what's going on with that particular alien scout. Maybe even, rob it of some of the of their technology. Maybe scavenge some weapons. And in short order, during that time, Wolf gets disintegrated, and then shortly afterwards, Artemis gets disintegrated. So right then and there, shit really hits the fan because everybody in the team is like losing their shit. What happens is that after integrating some of the weaponry, they go back to the Hall of Justice and they do a broadcast out to the people of Earth. Hey, look, we are still here to defend you. There are still heroes around to defend everybody. Don't give up hope. But what happens is that during their fight, going forward, when they end up going over to the Hall of Justice, they discover that, lo and behold, Martian Manhunter is still alive, and he's somehow he got there. He's not sure what's going on, but he's there to help. But during the fight that ensues there, they lose Aqualad. Afterwards, when they finally settle on a final plan to go ahead and attack their alien mothership in Smallville, during the enactment of that plan, they lose Superboy, and then they lose also Kid Flash and Robin. The only person who's left of the team is Miss Martian, and she's left to ponder what the hell she's going to do as she sees the mothership go up in the huge mushroom cloud with Kid Flash and Robin presumably still on the ship, and much to her chagrin, she thinks everything is over. She looks up and she sees that not only is there another mothership coming down, but there's actually a whole fleet of motherships coming down. In which case, she turns to her uncle, Martian Manhunter. She's like, I don't know what we're supposed to do. And he's like, I know what I'm supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, it looks like he stabs her through the chest. And all of a sudden, she wakes up, and it turns out that everything was a training exercise where all of the team members were psychically linked together through Martian Manhunter, and that the whole exercise was a no-win exercise. Everything was going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse the farther they got into the exercise. They were supposed to know that everything was just an exercise and simulation, but due to Miss Martian being her so subconsciously and emotionally attached to her teammates, once Artemis died, it sent like their whole perception of reality into overdrive and had everybody locked into this psychic simulation. And that's pretty much where they end up. They're like, this is probably the most dangerous thing that we've done with these kids. We're not sure what's going on. And then they leave off on the note where Martian Manhunter is saying that Miss Martian is by far the most powerful telepathic mind I've encountered so far. Much more powerful than myself. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. I don't think I missed anything, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. With that, let's go ahead and let's jump into what we liked about this particular episode, guys. The floor is open.
Fuck this episode. And I don't mean in a bad way, okay? This episode was fucked up. Especially upon first watching it. I'm like, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong here. This can't be how this series ends. because watching it, it's like, God damn, there is no fucking hope here. First of all, you see some of the most powerful heroes and one of the greatest minds, the world's greatest detective. You see them get blasted and disintegrated, destroyed from the beginning of the fucking cartoon, and it's like, so you tell me that these kids are the last hope? Oh, we're fucked. But as the episode goes on, okay, fine. But damn, oh God. I love this episode because it puts the teenagers in dire straits. But they're teenagers for the most part, and it's like, or they got adolescent minds, let's just say it that way. And it's just like, these kids are not going to fare so well.
Yep.
Period. Just during any of this situation. But fuck this episode, but in a good way. This was a twist of what we were actually used to, especially on how the episode ended. It didn't end on any high note whatsoever. Usually you'll get a high note and then you'll get something with the bad guys. This has none of that. Gray Mouse, what about you, man? I mean, fuck.
One thing I like is the references. And if you really pay attention to the background and the areas where the Justice League was fighting, I mean, they even fought in Smallville, for Christ's sake. I thought that was fucking great. Another thing too is you really actually saw how much the team has grown up to this point, on how much, especially like you said, when Artemis was killed, when they actually, they were in dire straits, like you said, that the Justice League members, but when Artemis was disintegrated, that really hit home, I think. And that, to me, that shows how much cohesiveness that team has at this point in time. And, I really like that. That was a nice payoff if you've been watching it from, 1 through 15, that you watch them grow. Now they're, I wouldn't say a complete oiled machine yet, but they're getting there. They're getting to a point to where, that they're, they really care for each other. And you really saw that in this episode, because, I mean, they went in thinking it was a simulation, but once, things got crisscrossed or whatever, it became real to them. Just like, you know, Batman said, or not Batman, I think it was Manhunter said that it was so real to Artemis that she went into a coma on the outside. So that's just how much of an impact this thing had, and how much I think the cohesiveness the team had. And that's one thing that I really like about that episode. What about you, Reverend?
Yeah, this one right here, this episode really reminds me of one of my favorite Batman the Animated Series episodes, entitled Over the Edge. And that particular one, it turns out that it's, if you've ever seen that particular episode, it turns out that everything that happens and everything that goes wrong, everything continues to go wrong. Everything goes way past fucked up to completely fucked up. All right. All the way to, you know, fucked up beyond all repair. Okay. Wow. But it turns out that it's in that particular episode, it turns out that it's Batgirl, you know, because she got hit with the Scarecrow's fear gas, and that was her worst case scenario playing out in her head of everything just, you know, falling to pieces, her whole world and everything. This particular one right here plays out very close to that, where we don't know that it's a simulation, especially if you're jumping into the episode the first time. You're like the theme was saying, you know, you're almost asking yourself, is this the end of the series? Is this how everything fucking ends? You know? And they really don't give you a lot of time to think about any of that, or to consider any of that other stuff, because the thing is that by this time, if you've watched the whole season from the beginning to this point, you've invested a bit of time to each of the characters that show up, and to see them just start dropping like flies, where you're like, no! It's really, really effective, and I gotta say, you know, one of the things that helps it out is because they've worked all the way up until this point for this particular episode to happen. And like I mentioned in other episodes that we've seen that we've really, really liked, Nicole Dubach, she's a writer on this one also, and she really reaches in deep for a lot of these reactions as far as what happens on screen. It's a great episode. Again, a lot of action, but still a lot of critical character interaction, where it's like, okay, so what would happen to the team if any one of them would have died? And yeah, in short order, they do answer that question, and yeah, it's really messed up. Okay, but like the theme said, messed up in a good way. All right, for the fact that it's, again, you can't help but you know, I couldn't help but find myself getting caught up in the episode, even though I've seen this like multiple times. All right, but that's not to say that, you know, there isn't anything that we don't have, like any real reservations or anything that we, you know, don't like about it. That really brings us to our second point here. Is there anything about this episode that you didn't like, or is there anything about the episode that you would change if you had the chance, guys?
Absolutely nothing. The thing about this episode that really, really hit home, there's nothing that I didn't like about this episode. I'm gonna just put this out there right now. This episode was it was a knockout. Okay, this went out of the park, never to return. All that shit. It was just the fact that, okay, Superboy even found out some shit about Superman that he didn't even fucking know in this episode. Superman has a Fortress of Solitude? That was very interesting. When Artemis died, who took it the hardest? Kid fucking Flash.
Yep.
I mean, come on. You could see the tension, the sexual tension, whatever, between the two. You know, they goddamn well have secret crushes on each other. Sacrificing the fucking, I mean, Robin had to take over. So you really, really had to see the whole team come together in dire straits. And fuck, as Grey Mouse mentioned, settings, okay, they were in Smallville.
I'm not trying to get on your rant or anything, but those were positive things. We're talking about negative things.
There isn't any.
I'm just saying. Okay, so it's my turn now.
Look, there isn't. I was trying to maybe dig into something, but I can't be that fucking nitpicky about this episode. I have nothing.
For this episode, I felt that they were put against overwhelming odds that were, that was not able to be defeated or not able to win against. And I mean, if in real life, not real life, but in a real life to that series would happen, I don't think the Justice League would go down that easy. I mean, that Justice League went down way too fucking easy. I mean, it's just, no, I can't accept that. And I'm being nitpicky here, but I know it was a simulation, but come on, man. The way Batman went, why the fuck would Batman sit there and just hug? He just saw, no, unacceptable. He will go somewhere and fucking think some shit out. It's just, no, the Justice League went down too quickly. They're supposed to be the heroes. So, yeah, that's my only complaint. Other than that, man, I'll start talking positive like you were. Reverend, what kind of flaws now that you have in this episode?
Well, it's funny that we went ahead and we're covering this one, because the thing is that the criticisms that I have of this particular episode, if I was somebody who's just watching this episode for the first time, I would not be able to make these criticisms. All right. The two things right off the bat, well, really kind of nitpicky, but they're the sci-fi tropes of, the mothership and the power core. You got to explode the power core of the mothership and you save the whole world and everything else. Generic as fuck, but they really kind of squashed that by showing, oh, hey, you blew up one mothership. Guess what? There are 12 more raining down right on top of your fucking head.
Wait a minute, was this Independence Day? I'm just saying.
No, but seriously, it was getting close to it was hedging on those tropes. All right.
I'm just saying.
So that was one thing, that kind of stood out. I was like, yeah, okay, but we're trying to sit there and we're working with an alien invasion that's wrapping up in 22 minutes. I understand. All right. The other thing that I gotta say that this is going to be a criticism of some of the future episodes that are coming up, and it really kind of starts with this particular episode where they go through the whole freaking episode. Everything is going one way, and then the last 5 minutes they go ahead, they flip it around, but they're like, oh, but it's okay because we got the fix right here, even though it doesn't end on a complete happy note. All right. They do that. Shit, they do that. They do that like with almost every freaking episode coming up through the rest of this season, where 90% of the episode is this way. There's this one huge thing that the whole team is facing off, and then last 5 minutes we've got it handled because of this, and then they go ahead and they give the audience and the team a win. Okay, like I said, it's not something I would have noticed at all, just watching the episodes casually, or if this was the first time I watched the episodes. Since I've watched these episodes multiple times, that whole thing where it's like, oh, everything's gonna be okay at the end, where they have a real nice, neat explanation, okay, and a solution right at the very end. Okay, it's not like with Homefront where everything was like a whole struggle all the way up until the end. Okay, but guess what? We already knew that there was, something was possible to happen at the end, because they kept on fighting to where that point. It's almost to where it's like, oh, this is dire, things are so fucked up, and then you find out like right within like the last three minutes that everything is okay. Because like I said, they do that with almost every fucking episode that's going to be finishing up the season.
Can I add something to the criticism?
Yeah.
I'm going to criticize the whole entire series, to be quite honest with you, because you brought a very valid point. I feel that this is not a series that you could just jump into. Each episode is not a standalone. There are some that are an exception, but if you have not watched the series up to this point, you have no idea what's going on, what the chemistry is of the team, and that's really, if I were to rate, that's one thing that keeps going, and then it just becomes more apparent, like you said, Reverend, as we go further into season 1, because you got to pick up these little hints and stuff throughout the previous episodes, because you have to have that knowledge to understand what's going on around there, and then I agree 100% with your criticism about having a quick fix or an easy out for all their problems. Boom, it's already flipped. I was like, I like to struggle to the end where you have a not so happy ending, but you know what I mean?
Well, it's the thing is that like I said with the Homefront, when they finally make it out of everything, it is well fucking earned, because like I said, pretty much you have the 2 youngest non-superpowered characters, surviving through, a scene out of the Terminator. Okay,
pretty much,
literally. Yeah. Okay, except there are 2 Terminators this time, and they both have superpowers. Okay, so when they go ahead and they try at the end of Homefront, granted, it's more like they survive long enough to get their asses saved. It still feels like a well-earned win. With some of the episodes that are coming up, some of the way that some of the things resolve are just a little too convenient. All right, but I got to say, with that and what Grey Mouse said just a few seconds ago, it's probably just a criticism for the series overall. Mm-hmm. But as far as this goes, this is still a good episode. It still does serve a big purpose, which will bring us to our third point. What did we notice in this particular episode that serves as a reference or a setup to an episode or a storyline arc that's coming in the future?
We already know how Kid Flash feels about Artemis. That's a given. That's just, it's well put out there. It was well put out in this episode, most importantly. And now, you gotta, with this episode, the team is going to have to figure out how to cope with this shit, because at the end of the episode there were tears, there were sadness, they were like, look, they're rattled mentally. So how is the team going to fare after this? And that's what's about to come up.
Yeah. What about you, Grey Mouse? What did you notice?
For me, this is pretty much a setup for the entire season 2, I think. Believe it or not, this is like a mini season 2 in just this one episode, because season 2, most of the Justice League is out, doing their thing, because they're defending themselves pretty much for what happened, But so it kind of gave them, I think it kind of gave them a reality check, is what this was. It was like, we're no longer sidekicks. We keep saying that, we said that last video. They're no longer sidekicks now. They are the real deal. If all hell breaks loose, and it did in this episode, and there's nobody left except for Young Justice, they are the world's superheroes. They're there to defend the Earth. And if it comes down to the very last superhero, and it did in this episode, but I think this is like a major foreshadow of the entire season 2. It just, I can't, now that I've watched it, like multiple times, it's like, yeah, they're pointing, they're setting it up for, the future. That's what I felt.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that's going on with this particular one. Like team said, there's this episode creates a lot of fallout, and the team is going to have to deal with that. That they deal with that directly in the next coming episode, Disordered. There's the whole thing with unfortunate things happening to team members, and that changing the dynamic of the team. That happens in season 2. All right. Again, this reflects on that almost directly. There's that. There's the whole thing about, okay, so how powerful is Miss Martian exactly? That's one thing that's a question that's being raised now. It really doesn't get answered fully until we jump into season 2. So yeah, if the foreshadowing on this, the references that everything that they're setting up, if it doesn't pay off directly in this first season here, I do know that it definitely sets up things that happen, in the second season. One little tidbit that I have to ask: is it me, or did the mothership look like the main pod that landed down from the Martian Imperium from the Origins episodes of Justice League?
It now that
they look pretty similar.
They look pretty similar.
Yeah, I because I sat there, I was watching the episode, before we jumped on to do this, just to make sure that my notes were right and everything. I was like, wait a minute, this shit has always looked familiar to me. I don't know why. And then I was like, wait a minute, if I remember correctly, the Justice League series started out, the Origins, the first 3 episodes, entitled Origins Part 1 to 3, or Secret Origins Part 1 to 3, was an alien invasion setup where it was a Martian Imperium, and I was like, the mothership. It looks just like the fucking pods that landed down on the Earth that were trying to black out the sun. So.
That was a good throwback.
Yeah, and I think it was.
Had another tidbit again is that we actually saw Robin take charge, and that's what I said earlier for what happens in season 2. That's potential Rock Paramount type thing. Look, yes.
See, I mean, I wanted to knock this episode because of Kid Flash going teenage hormone crazy when Artemis died, but I fucking couldn't do it. I couldn't even nitpick that. I was trying to lead up to that nitpick when I was commenting on it, but I was like, no, I just fucking can't, because at least he showed some fucking emotion. If this episode would have been like the simulation, like, okay, everyone's emotionless, everybody has no fears, everyone's like, okay, everything's fine, when you got an alien fucking invasion going on, then it wouldn't have been as good as it was.
You wouldn't have had that plot twist at the end.
Well, right. it also wouldn't have carried the same amount of weight for the folks who are invested.
So that's why when it got to the point when Artemis died and when the team really started letting loose with their emotions, I really, really got a kick out of that. And that's why I couldn't even knock Kid Flash doing that, going emotionally unstable and crazy, because damn it, my love interest is gone. Shit. I couldn't fucking do it.
I'm surprised you didn't trip.
No, because when he gets serious, he gets focused. And in the last 3 fucking episodes, he has been in certain way, shapes, or form.
Or they didn't drown this time.
Yeah, something like that. Let's go ahead and do what we always do when we jump to the end here. On a scale of yay, nay, or meh, although at this point I don't think I really have to ask that question, but just thinking out loud, on a scale of yay, nay, or meh, what are your thoughts on this particular episode?
Oh, come on, yay. That's it for me. Gray Mouse, what about you?
Definitely a yay. I really, to sum everything up, I really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed the foreshadowing, and I enjoyed, seeing the team get broke down and built back up. Well, that'll be the next episode, but I'm just saying, broken.
Yeah, no surprise. This one's a yay for me. This is. I'd have to say, this is pretty much a perfect episode. All right, because the type of things that I complain about, and again, is the only types of things. Unless you're somebody who's sat there and watched this fucking series like multiple times, not just this episode, but all of the fucking episodes, multiple times, not really anything that you can sit there and pull out as a criticism. But yeah, I mean, there are so many things that are going on with this here. Like I said, in previous videos, I'm a sucker for good character interaction. All right, this has it in spades. Okay. And it's not nice character interactions. It's not just sitting down bullshitting over cookies and shit like that. No, this is dire straits, end of the world type interaction. Okay, this is where you start.
You rarely see that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
yes, this ended up being a simulation, but you rarely see that situation.
Yeah, and you know it adds weight to what's going on in the episode. Pile on top of that the fact that, like I said, it reminds me of like one of my favorite Batman the Animated Series episodes with the similarity to Over the Edge. The way that, especially the way that it's set up and the way that it's paced, it doesn't give you much time to breathe all the way until the end of the fucking episode. If especially if you're somebody who's invested the time into this team over the past 15 episodes that happened before that, yeah, this one is. The best thing about this particular series is that all of their knockout shots, they're not just knockout shots, but they're also well set up knockout shots. And this one right here is just, this one's a fucking KO, as far as the episode goes. All right. That said, what we really want to know, now that you know our thoughts and our review on this particular episode, what we really want to know, folks out there on YouTube, is what did you think about Season 1, Episode 16 of Young Justice, Failsafe? You can let us know by leaving us a comment below. Yeah, especially if you think there's something that we missed in the review, if you think that we're off base, we'd like hearing from that, all right? If you also want to go ahead and let us know what you think about our review in general, you can go ahead and hit thumbs up or thumbs down, whatever way you choose. And if you care about seeing whatever, our future reviews and everything else, you want to know when they drop out, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. You'll get notified whenever we go ahead and we put out another one of our reviews or any one of our other random conversations, whether or not it be about video games or other geeky shit. All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring this particular review and our video all the way to an end right here. I'm the Reverend.
The theme here.
And I'm Grey Mouse 1.
All forms of entertainment has the right to exist, even if you don't like it. And thank God this wasn't the last episode of this fucking series because everyone was fucking passing away. Credits.